Hey everyone, Rogue Guild here, and today I felt as though I needed to do a follow-up video to last week's video that I did covering the major news of Massive being contracted to do a new open-world Star Wars game. A lot of things have been said, about a lot of different angles to this topic on a lot of different forums, and given how we still haven't heard a peep from Massive themselves about this issue, I felt as though I needed to give a little bit of direction if I can and if anyone really cares. Let me clarify my stance on this whole debacle. I was one of the first people to start the chatter and start the speculation mill about the Division 3. My first video on it was in December of 2019, and ever since then, I presented a lot of ideas and a lot of evidence for how the Division 3 might be made and why I thought at the time it was almost a given because of the financials and Ubisoft's track record, etc. And you know what I got accused of? I got accused of being an optimist. Even up until my more recent Division 3 evidence collection video before the Star Wars announcement, people said we don't know anything, you're fabricating stuff, this isn't real evidence. So I was like, okay, I'm basing my conclusion that I was pretty certain Division 3 was coming off of the facts we had at the time, and from looking at things with a very realistic lens. I tried my best to leave the fan in me out the door, and people said I was being optimistic. Well, alright, you want to know what's happening now? Seeing the Star Wars announcement and reanalyzing what I thought was Division 3 evidence previously, I used that same realistic lens to determine that, well, okay, Division 3 might not be as certain as we originally thought it was, or as I originally thought it was. And now, people are saying I'm being pessimistic. They're like, this doesn't change anything. Division 3 is a given, just as it was all along. What? Apparently you can't win. So let me clarify my judgment of the situation as of now. I don't doubt that Division 3 makes financial sense for Ubisoft. I've been saying for over a year that it would make sense for them to make one just off of the financials alone. Alright. Additionally, I don't doubt that if Ubisoft really wanted to make the game right now, they could. People are acting like I don't understand how many partner studios Division has. Trust me, I do. There's a good 5 to 6 studios who could theoretically partner up and take the lead on the Division 3 in Massive's stead. So I get that. Here's my skepticism. I'm skeptical that Massive would want to relinquish the Division IP to another studio, even if that meant they'd have to shelve the franchise for several years while they work on another project. Why? Well, Division is practically Massive's cornerstone. They were working on this IP well before Ubisoft even originally bought Massive in 2008. It's like if you were to write a series of books or direct a trilogy of films. Would you really want to spend so much time and give so much dedication to bring this world to life over 12 plus years and have 2 entries only just to suddenly all hand it off to some acquaintance? Hey, UB Reflections, how's it going? Hey, can you take this from us, but just be sure to do X, Y, and Z, make sure the story follows this, this, and this, and then be sure to include these gameplay features, yeah? Hey, where you going? No, come back, you need to do this. Do you see what I mean? It's just like, I don't think another studio would want the control for Massive, and I don't think Massive would want to have to worry about this other studio continuing and just, working on their own vision that they've had for so long now. Now look, am I a prophet? No. Could Massive hand off the franchise to Leamington or Reflections, who are hiring a crap ton for an unannounced project right now? Absolutely they could, but I'm coming at this with the same realistic lens that led me to believe Division 3 was a possibility in the first place, and my gut feeling tells me that Massive has very little interest in giving away its baby. Then there's also the narrative people are spinning that Star Wars isn't going to affect Division whatsoever, that Massive has hired enough and has a large enough team to simultaneously create all 3 franchises they now helm. Again, am I clairvoyant? No, they certainly could. But if you didn't know, the majority of the devs we know from the Division are now done and gone. Julian, Thylander, Drew, Bruce, Nikki, probably Mackenzie. Trick is about the only, recognizable person we know that I think, at least, is still on the game. So do I really think that some top-secret DEFCON 3 development team is going to rise out of the shadows and we're going to see Massive do a 180 and bring us some incredible Year 3 extravaganza followed by a Division 3 next year, as some have so boldly predicted? I'm sorry, but that just doesn't make that much sense to me, especially after the relatively dry Year 2 we've seen thus far. Now, there are some, like the German YouTuber named Charles that a lot of you have pointed out to me, who allegedly has a contact within Ubisoft who's confirmed to him that the Division franchise will continue on. Is that true? I don't know. I don't speak German, and I certainly don't have my own contact within Ubisoft. I'm mostly kidding, but I feel the need to remind everyone that you have to take these things with a grain of salt. Some guy from Germany with 34k subs and a claim to the truth isn't an official source. Am I saying he's lying? No, and I generally give these kinds of things the benefit of the doubt, but you can't go around saying, oh, Division say because this guy said so with no visible proof. I hope I'm not sounding like a jerk here. I just really want everyone to understand that nothing is a given and everything is just speculation as of right now. This is the same mentality I urged people to have back when I was called an optimist for believing there would be a Division 3, and that's the same mentality I'll urge now. But enough of the doom and gloom. Let's go back to this Charles guy quick, because regardless of whether or not his claims are true, what he presents in his video is actually a good segue to an idea and a theory that I want to put forth today, that involving Redstorm. Shout out to, I think I would say your name, Mr. Gav J, who gave me the link to this guy's channel, because after several people said that they were sure Division 3 was coming because of some German YouTuber, I still didn't have a name or link, so thank you for providing that. So, this guy made a video which I can't really tell you the title of because I don't speak German, like I said. I also don't really know what he's saying in the video itself. I tried to translate the transcription YouTube provides, but it was really shoddy and it didn't really come across that coherently. What I was able to do, however, was translate the statement that Charles claims he received from a Ubisoft employee regarding Division's future. He had it posted in the comments, and it translated nicely and understandably, so I was happy with that. And by the way, I'll link this video in the description that I'm referencing if you want to check it out. Again, if you don't speak German, you won't be able to understand it, but of course I want to give credit where credit is due. So here's the statement that he provides, which has been translated from what I believe is also German. Here it is. Quote, Massive is a very large studio that is working on several titles in parallel, especially since our titles are generally developed and supported by several studios. The announcement of a new title doesn't mean that other projects are no longer supported. And of course, that doesn't mean that Division will no longer be pursued as a franchise. Okay, so that sounds pretty good, right? Yes, but like I said, given my realistic take on the situation and given the non-verifiability of the source, I don't take this to be confirmation that we're in the clear. What I do want to hone in on in this statement, however, is that final sentence. And of course, that doesn't mean that the Division will no longer be pursued as a franchise. Does that specify a third title entry? No. And so what I mentioned in my previous video and what I want to flesh out and present today is my theory for how Redstorm could be actively working on and preparing to release a spin-off game within the Division franchise. To start, let's circle back to the partner studio discussion. A lot of people have suggested how they think Redstorm has secretly been working on Division 2 or Division 3 all along, and that they're now preparing to take the reins of the franchise from Massive. And while I've even speculated that in the past, how I thought Redstorm might be working on early Div 3 PvP stuff, that was always under the assumption that they'd later hand their work back over to Massive, because the simple truth is, I don't think Redstorm is that large of a studio. If you go to their website, they have a page dedicated to the pictures of their team members, and that page presents you with 156 employees. Now sure, that might not be up to date or show absolutely everyone, so let's be generous and assume they've got 200 employees. Massive has around 600 to 700, I believe, and factoring Avatar in for Division 2 development, let's say they had a solid 400 people working on Division 2 at the main studio, along with the help of those several partner studios to make up a total of 1,000 game devs, as was reported at the time. On top of this, Redstorm has already announced projects. They've got some VR titles, I believe, and likely a few other support roles on other games. There are Redstorm devs on Twitter whose bios state explicitly that they are not working on the Division. That said, Redstorm does indeed have an unannounced AAA title, one that they've been recently hiring for, but given their other obligations, that project could at most have like 80 to 100 people on it. The other Division partner studios have obligations as well, maybe even some to help Massive with Star Wars, so I simply don't see Redstorm helming Division 3 with their smaller size, and I don't really see the other studios helping them with that. But what I do see and what that statement that Charles provided opens the door for is other things within the Division franchise, like a smaller spin-off game, one that 80 to 100 Redstorm employees and some other smaller fractions of the other studios could certainly be and have been working on. I presented the idea a long time ago that Redstorm could make a standalone, free-to-play, PvP-focused survival spin-off for the Division, the likes of which could compete with games like Warzone or Apex Legends. Now at the time I thought that maybe it could release in conjunction with Division 3 to gain a wider audience and to pump even more marketing, but now I wonder if a potential spin-off from Redstorm could be the bridge between what we have now in Division 2 and what we could see with a Division 3 several years down the road when Massive is freed up from its other projects and can return to the franchise. And yes, with almost all of my other stuff, I have evidence to back this theory up, so let's get into it. Alright, so the first thing on this list of evidence that I have is one that you guys have likely heard of because it was pretty big news back when it happened, and that is that Redstorm's banner on Twitter is in fact a Division Rogue logo. They changed it from their own studio logo to that back around, I want to say, in November of last year. And so at the time that drummed up a lot of speculation and discussion because that's definitely a very deliberate thing to do. And so, while they haven't said anything yet, I'm sure that that has some sort of connection or correlation to what that unannounced project might be. And that is something that I certainly think could relate to this potential BR spinoff that I am speculating could be in the works. So I definitely wanted to point that out, even though a lot of you probably already know about it. All right, now this next thing is something that I actually pointed out a very long time ago, like back in April or May of 2020. And it's an article from 2018, so quite a while ago, but it was there at the time. There was a rumor going around that the Division developer, which is obviously massive, is making a battle royale game. And so basically the article goes on to say that the rumor going around was that Ubisoft had contracted Massive to start work on a standalone, that's the key there, standalone battle royale game. And that they were looking into it, earlier in 2018 when this was first reported, at the time when things like PUBG and Fortnite were really getting big. And so that development never went anywhere, right? We never heard any sort of announcement for a, BR title to come from Massive Entertainment. Obviously, Survival came out in 2016, so it wasn't that. We thought at the time it might be a, survival sequel for The Division 2 or something, similar to that, but it never came to fruition. So my theory here and what I'm kind of thinking is that this could have been something where they started work on like a standalone survival client for The Division 2 or, possible future Division entries. And then stuff like Avatar happened, stuff like Star Wars, and they eventually canceled it or just postponed it, and maybe now that work has been transferred over to Red Storm for them to finish and put out this product that then could serve as a standalone BR survival type game for the Division franchise. And I will leave a link to this Screen Rant article in the description if you want to go read it. I don't think they were the first to report it. I don't remember what it says now, but yeah. I'll leave a link to it if you want to go read it for yourself. Pretty interesting, but I definitely wanted to point that out. All right, next up is that Keith Evans, who, if you don't remember, Keith was the other half of Red Storm that we would always see on State of the Game back throughout Division 1 and Division 2 when Red Storm was still on it. You would see Terry, who is obviously the, I would say, better known guy from Red Storm, the creative director of that studio. And then Keith Evans was always a game designer that came alongside him. And I went back and checked to make sure that that was his previous title, because now on his Twitter, it states that he's a game director, but it doesn't say for what game. So I would assume for whatever their AAA unannounced project is, Keith is now the game director. And so considering his strong ties to Division in the past, it wouldn't surprise me if Terry is acting, creative director for the whole studio in this project, and Keith Evans has been promoted to game direct this spin-off survival, battle royale, that type of deal. It wouldn't surprise me in the least. So that's something interesting for sure. Also, somewhat recently, last year, Red Storm put out an announcement that they were doing playtests for some sort of game that had, it had Division as part of the Ubisoft portfolio in the picture, but it didn't necessarily state it was going to be for something related to the Division. I signed up for it. I didn't get contacted to get in. I know some people who did get into it, but that playtest was soon canceled after they asked for people. They, emailed them back or whatever and said it wasn't going to happen. So that's very interesting. At the time we were like, could that really be for the Division 3? And it wouldn't really make sense for Division 3 because that would be such an early time period. I don't think they would want to tell anyone in the public that they're working on that. But if they've been working on some sort of standalone survival client for the last however long, then that would definitely make sense for them to be playtesting that if it was going to come out sometime like this March or sometime in 2021. That would make a lot more sense than a Division 3. So I think that could have definitely potentially been related. And then the final thing that I have here is just all the teases we've gotten. Both Red Storm, Terry, and other devs from Red Storm have just been, liking different Division 3 related posts on Twitter, commenting little cryptic things on certain posts. And it's just there's so much going on with Red Storm combined with their Twitter banner change that it would be very hard for me to believe that they're not connected to the Division right now in some capacity, because otherwise that's just needless teasing at a time when this community is really hoping for some good news. So that would make them look pretty bad if in the end they weren't connected whatsoever. So I'm sure that in some fashion, in some form, this all is culminating to something, but as of what, we will just have to wait and see. Alright guys, and I think that is going to cut it for me presenting my theory for why I think Red Storm could potentially be producing a Division spin-off game, maybe around BR Survival, a standalone client, that type of deal, or some other thing within the Division franchise. Again, I personally don't see the Division 3 either coming from Massive or another one of these partner studios in the near future. But again, I want to emphasize that absolutely nothing is off the table. I could be 100% wrong in my predictions for the future here, and this is just my best guess as to what we might see coming. Truly, the options are pretty endless right now for what we might get announced in the next few weeks leading up to March, so really anything could happen, and I want you guys to leave your thoughts on what you think is going to happen for the future in the comments below. Hopefully, taking some heed to some of the reality checks and facts that I gave for what is happening behind the scenes, because I think that certainly needs to be taken into consideration when you're contemplating what might come for the future. But thanks so much for watching, guys. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and be sure to subscribe with notifications on to be updated every time I upload. For the rest of the week, I don't really have another Division video planned. I'm kind of waiting for February to come around with the next gen update, with the Fame mission, all that kind of stuff. I put out a poll last week, a few days ago, about possibly doing a Black Ops Cold War video. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested below. I could potentially do one of those later in the week. I'm going to do proximity coverage this weekend, so we'll see what comes out the wheelhouse and the rest of the week here. But thank you guys for sticking around. I know this is a pretty tumultuous time for the game, so I appreciate you sticking around and giving me your time. It is certainly very appreciated. That being said, thanks again for watching, everyone. Have a great day, and until the next one, guys, Rogue Gold. Out.